It's Comedy Dish.
Co-starring Rick Wright and Stephen Allen Green.
And here we are.
Here we are. Well, you see, from my end, this is, remember I had the internet people up here, the internet people.
Yes.
Because we were having problems. And they fixed it. And, you know, they said they fixed it. And I assume it's been fixed.
Well,
but I think I got the first indication it is because I was able to see our logo. Usually I don't see it. Usually, yeah, that's always why I always ask you, did you see it?
Yeah. And also you haven't frozen yet. So, but I am hearing my voice echo.
You got an echo?
Yeah, I'm hearing it. No, I'm not.
No, you're not. No, you're not. Not. How you doing, Rick?
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's been a very, very good week for quizzing this week.
Yeah, tell me while I have some yogurt.
Yes. Well, I'm having some wine. So,
California, London.
But yeah, we've August is supposed to be the month everybody's out of town, and so all the
Edinburgh.
Yeah, either Edinburgh or just all the kids are out of school, so they go various places. But this year they stuck around because we in August we're lucky to get 10 players in a single night, and let's see, last night we had 37 players.
Wow.
The week before that we had 40, and the week before that we had 45. So it's interesting how it's rebounded. Where we're going to be hit is in November when World Cup starts, which
right.
Normally they do that in the summertime, but it's all been thrown out of kilter because they're doing it in Qatar this year, where it's really, if they did it in the summertime, it'd be ridiculously hot.
By the way, you play guitar.
I play flamenco guitar. Indeed. So anyway, yeah, our turnout has been really good, and it's just at this one pub too, because the Monday night quiz I do has been drawing its usual 15 to 20. So
you do two quizzes a week.
Yeah, for the time being. I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know how much longer I'm going to do the Monday one, because it's just, but because it used to draw pretty well, over the summer. It's been, thank God I have the Tuesday that's been really exciting, and the response is good. And I'm getting to sing a lot. I'm occasionally throwing in old Rick Wright bits and stuff. Last night I sang Michael Jackson songs. So anything is possible.
Isn't it great to do fun stuff that has nothing to do with stand-up comedy?
Yeah, although there's elements of stand-up comedy that work their way into it.
No, but I mean,
without the rigmarole of booking it.
Without dealing with other comedians or club owners. No offense. There's some great ones out there. Some of them are my best friends, including you. But,
Yeah, I fully understand. In fact, I remember it was almost 30 years ago. It was in 1993 where Rick and Ruby got a booking in Denver, Colorado. And this was 8 years after we'd officially broken up. But Kip Addotta was supposed to do this theater in Denver, but he had a heart attack. And so the guy that was booking him used to manage Rick and Ruby in our heyday, and he just wanted to see if we could do it. And it was just such a flight away from, because we were still doing the Rick and Ruby act, but we were doing it in a theater instead of in a comedy club. So there was a whole different vibe to it. And
I see.
Yeah, we were there for 6 weeks. Got some okay reviews. In fact, there was one time, I should make a blog about this one. We were on one of our off nights. We were driving around Denver. I guess we had a rental car or something, but we were listening to the radio, and they had a contest, I don't know, name the song that just played, something like that. So the lady they spoke to got it right, and the DJ said, "And you've just won 2 free tickets to the Rick and Ruby show at the Wincoop Theater."
That's cool.
And she's like, "Oh, that's good." Yeah, I obviously didn't had no idea who we were, but it was funny
Oh, I see.
that we listened. We heard that on the radio, and then and the DJ was trying to hype it up. Oh, I hear they're really funny. They're supposed to be really good. So hope you enjoyed the show. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, I know. It's just, I was thinking. When we were talking earlier just now about. I was talking about other comedians. I love other comedians. I love them as people.
Yeah.
And I love them as comedians. Obviously, I do. But it's human flaws that I see outside the comedy business too. And the one that always gets me interested in good and bad ways is when I see other people's pomposity. And I think that's the worst thing, just sort of the way they swagger around the green room, and they may say hello to someone else, but not you, even though you're on the same show, and all that shit. Right. And I was at an awards show at the Comedy Chateau on Sunday, and there's a comedian producer who's very successful, and he and I have had some difficulties recently, and I see him, and he's just like, his eyes dart away, and I wanted to say this, that I saw and noticed pomposity. It was the first thing I noticed as a kid of other people. I was always trying to figure out the bullies or the teachers or the people that did.
You're growing up in Hollywood. You would have seen it a lot. I guess.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. And so the way I survived childhood mentally, aside from all the divorce and the crazy shit that was going on in the world, mm-hmm. Nuclear annihilation at any minute, turn 18 and die in Vietnam. I mean, it was a great childhood.
Yeah, mine too. Yeah.
Right? All of us.
Just duck and cover.
Duck and cover. But the way I survived was through my own, for lack of a better term, perverted comedy viewpoint of the world. And I would see people who were pompous or bullies or teachers or authoritarian figures that are abusing their power. And I would make fun of them in my own head. I would act like them. I would mock them. Ooh, I'm in charge. Ooh, yeah, I'm the guy. And so that became kind of my comedy act. And I think, and also my comedy offstage persona, but I was always joking. And I think a lot of people thought I really was that. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. It's really tough to find that audience in high school, for example, unless you're already got the reputation as the class clown, if that's fully intact. Otherwise, they just think you're creepy. I found that particularly difficult in my sophomore year.
Creepy.
Yeah.
If they found you. See, first of all, I was not the class clown. I was the class heckler. But what do you mean they found you creepy? Who's found you creepy?
Oh, well, the people that I thought were important, that I thought, were the people I needed to impress. And it turned out I didn't need to impress them at all. But I didn't find that out I didn't realize that until after we had moved from Arizona to California, that, these people were spoiled rich kids who had their own little clique. And, I just wasn't part of it because I was skinny and I had acne. So, there was all that, and I just didn't, I wasn't a fighter or any of that kind of stuff. I wasn't an athlete. So, there was the verbal abuse, and I don't know, just moving to California, I occasionally got it, but it just didn't bother me once we were in Southern California. I just said, well, okay, those guys don't like me. Fuck them.
Right. But and I think, this is another thing that is, there's a lot of love in the LA comedy circuit. And I give my props to people like Dante Ruscellelli and his wife and partner, Rebecca Cochan, who produced the the Worldwide Comedy Awards at the Comedy Chateau on Sunday night, and I was there.
Same
Did this-
Dante that was at the Comedy Store in the
Yeah.
90s. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he runs a management company
Mhm.
and is a comedian, and he's a social activist. He's an interesting cat, nice guy, very intelligent. And the camaraderie, and Lou Deck, and in fact, I don't know if you saw my Facebook picture or post of it,
I did
but
see. I saw you and Lou Dick, and who was the other person? It was you and
well, let me. Uh, yeah. Here. I tell you what. Let me share the screen. Let me do a share because I want to show you something else. Okay, share screen. What is this? Will you allow StreamYard to share your screen? Yes, of course I'm allowing. Will I allow StreamYard? I'm asking. I'm at what? Okay, what? Firefox. Oh, fuck's sake. Allow. Firefox does not allow. What? Oh, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Anyway, oh man. I'm just getting so resentful of this entire internet cat and mouse game that the whole software companies and servers are playing on us, where suddenly, we think we know how to play their StreamYard, and then suddenly we don't. And then they blame you. Well, because you didn't clean your cache, or your computer's not modern enough. And I go, fuck you.
Or we didn't like your last password, so we're
we didn't like your last part. Oh, Eddie Brill. Eddie Brill says, "Hey fellas,
Well, hey fella, want to come on and talk to us for a while?
want to join us?" Okay, I sent him that message. I'm just going to go check something. If I check my Facebook, I think that these comments show up on Facebook. I think that's how it works. So I got to go to our broadcast. Yeah, there's the broadcast. Oh, yeah. So that's what happened. So what you can see the comment, Eddie Brill, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I replied. Let's see if he gets back to us. But okay, sorry, just looking at the thing. Yeah, I mean, it was a really nice thing. They had an award. They gave awards out, and real awards, and it was a real show, and it was sincere, and I'm glad somebody's doing it.
And people had acceptance speeches and all that stuff.
Yeah, little acceptance speeches. They even had piped in orchestra walking to the stage to accept the award music. It was almost comical.
Oh, great!
There you go. There's the afternoon I was hoping for. The windows are open because it's hot, and there's a car alarm going. Now it's off. But anyway, here's the thing that I'm having a difficult time, and I'm fine now, but I'm dealing with what is the upcoming anniversary of the event that changed my life. I don't want to make this show dominant about that, but it just brought up a lot of thoughts in my head about why am I even in this business to begin with?
I read your posts every day, and I go, damn, how, especially the one about you spent $25,000 to hire the musicians. And, and they were there on stage pretty much the whole night, or at least they were there. They were in the building the whole night, and never had to pull their instruments out of their cases. So, and Jerry, I remember Jerry didn't even want to go through a rehearsal.
Hang on one second, Rick. I have to refresh my screen. Sorry.
Okay, I'm going to send a little message to Maggie.
I'm back. Let me just test the share screen because I wanted to put some videos and things as you're talking. Okay, still won't do it. Anyway, screw it. Yeah, the orchestra. This is one of the things that he and I talked about over and over again. When I met with him at his yacht, this was after I sent him the invitation, which was basically, Max Alexander helped me write this. And he said, you got to offer him an award. That's how you get him.
Yep.
So I never give an award to anybody. So, the show is called High on Laughter. I paid an awards manufacturing business.
Weren't you were you going to call it the Jerry Lewis Award or something like that?
Initially it was this beautiful glass sculpture. I wish I can connect. I might have to use a different browser because I want to show you a picture of it. But anyway, it was initially called the High on Laughter Award, named after the show, High on Laughter. And when I met with Jerry, physically at his yacht in San Diego, he said to me, let's call it. I got an idea. Now, this is phone calls later. Calls me up one day. He was calling me up every day.
Yeah.
If I wasn't calling him for something which I didn't want to do, he'd be calling me up every day. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm praying it's not Jerry Lewis. It's just become a real pain in the ass. And so he calls me up one day and he says, Steven, I got an idea. Because he'd been thinking about my show. It had been so on his mind. He goes, Steven, rather than calling it the High on Laughter Award, why don't we call it, and this is Jerry telling me, why don't we call it the Charlie Chaplin Award? And I went, without thinking, sure, why not, Jerry? Absolutely. And then Jerry said, because I was compared to Chaplin and I was friends with Charlie.
I knew that's where it was going. Exactly.
Right? Yeah. So I said, cool. All right, I'll get back to you. Now, in the back of my mind, I still had the apartment in New York at the Chelsea Hotel. And one of the residents was Aurelia Theron, if that's her name. I have it on, she's a Facebook friend. But she's the granddaughter of Eugene O'Neill and the great-granddaughter of Charlie Chaplin, or the other way around. I always forget. And she was my neighbor, gorgeous lady, a dancer. And she was in the Invisible Circus with Geraldine Chaplin.
That's right. I mean, yeah, because Chaplin's last wife was Una O'Neill Chaplin.
That's right. Oh, you mean he married a woman who had the same last name as? I'm kidding. So, get it? Yeah. So I think, suddenly, it's like you got to compare my experience of this whole thing was I'd come back to LA after, establishing myself in London pretty damn good, I thought. I had some bumps and some mistakes, but pretty much I was working and making a living in front of great audiences. And I come back to LA, Comedy Store doesn't want me. I'm a loser. I'm, over 30 and not famous. All these, they knew me 30 years ago, so they pegged me as that crazy person that they thought I was, and I wasn't. And now they still think, and they won't back down ever, blah, 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 blah. And the next minute, I'm taking an idea from one of my childhood comedy idols, or at least one of the most successful film and television and nightclub comedians in the world. And now I'm in this world of probably the greatest comedy legend of all time, Charlie Chaplin. So that's the kind of shit that I would talk to my therapist about this week. Anyway.
Yeah. So next, the 8th of September is a Thursday. So, it'll be interesting. Next week, our guest is Phil Walker, who's a British comedian, who's probably played the Palladium at some point by
really?
Now. He's got a nice little backlog of stuff. I think it's good to have an English comedian on right before the anniversary.
Yeah, I don't want to overshadow. I appreciate because you were on the show and you know what I went through and all that. I don't want to overshadow our shows with that. But I will say on the 8th at is it 6 to 7:30? It's early in the evening, but that's how shows go in LA. At the Comedy Chateau in North Hollywood, I'll be doing a shortened version of I Eat People Like You for Breakfast, my story about going to England and dealing with Jerry Lewis. And I'm showing videos. You'll be on one of those videos. And it's a great story. And I think I want all the I want all the comedians at the Chateau or in LA to come and see this show, because it's not just about, oh, this is what I went through. It was this an interesting story. It's, you want to play England and know what it's about, from my point of view, and Edinburgh. I it's educational as well. Always plug in. But yeah, so anyway, just to finish the award story. So I called the Chaplin estate, explained to them, and they said no. So they didn't want to have any affiliation with Jerry Lewis.
Yeah. They're probably a little bit unnerved that, that the French were comparing him to Chaplin, putting Chaplin and Jerry Lewis in the same breath. Although they're, what's in Jerry's defense, such as it may be, he was good with the facial, which so was Charlie. I mean, he was, except you couldn't get Jerry to shut up.
I was about to say that was my joke, and I have that in the screenplay. When Stephen leaves the yacht, he says to himself, "At least Chaplin, shut up." Yeah, I mean, well, Jerry was always trying to snuggle up. When the Rat Pack and Sean Levy, who was our guest, who wrote the book
Yes.
King of Comedy about Jerry Lewis, and wrote Rat Pack Confidential, Sean, in his book, the Jerry Lewis one, illustrates, as we say in England, illustrates how when the Rat Pack, meaning Sinatra and Lawford and Joey Bishop and Sammy Davis Jr. and Saddam Hussein all went to the White House to meet with JFK, Jerry wasn't invited. In fact, Jerry was not in the Rat Pack. And actually, Jerry snuck in. This is what I heard, what Sean said, and I believe him, that Jerry snuck into the White House or somehow had I'm Jerry Lewis. Can I come? I'm part of this thing, and then hid in the other room. And I mean, he's just living a Jerry Lewis movie wherever he goes. And I think that's my same thing.
It's funny.
Because I see myself as this foolish character that everyone's fascinated with, and half the people can't stand, and half the people think is great. I am Jerry Lewis in that sense. So I get back to Jerry, by the way, and I tell him, sorry, the Chaplin estate said no. And you can hear Jerry on the other end go, damn, why did he even call them and check? So the minute goes by, a half a second goes by, and Jerry says, I know, let's call the award the Jerry Lewis Award.
Oh, that was his second choice.
That was his second choice.
Yeah.
So I had this thing made up, the Jerry Lewis Award. I paid $900 plus tax to have this beautiful glass sculpture that was designed off of Leslie Cabarga, who's the graphic artist. I mean, Leslie's a friend, and he designed all kinds of stuff for me. And Leslie is world renowned. He designed Panda Cafe logo, and
I've heard the name, definitely.
Yeah. Just amazing artist. He's I think he's the curator of the Betty Boop artwork now, and anyway, so he's amazing and just brilliant, like our Crumb genius, but at another level of graphic design.
Because my first wife did merchandising of Betty Boop, images on like T-shirts and drinking cups and things like that. So,
oh wow!
So I think. She may have dealt with some Leslie Cabarga art at some point.
Right.
Yeah. So I knew, I'm sure that's where I've heard the name. Anyway.
So that was the whole thing was.
I find it amusing that Jerry Lewis was trying to get in on the Rat Pack at the White House, and Dean was there. So he would have had to make up with Dean in order to get to actually.
That's a good point. Well, maybe that was what he was trying to do.
Yeah, it took at least another 20 years after that before he and Dean finally actually shook hands or whatever.
Yeah, but did they ever work together after that? No.
no, Dean guested on one of the telethons. I think that's where they kind of reunited, but that had to have been at least 25 years after they split. So, yeah, enough water goes under the bridge after all that time. Uh, I love the Hollywood stories. The ones of intrigue. I also, what was I reading about Jerry recently? Well, none of his offspring got any inheritance.
Hang on, Rick. Hang on. I'm going to enter another browser. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, so I've got all these Gary Lewis records, and
okay, what I'm going to do is, hang on. I'm going to log out.
Yes, because you're echoing.
Rick?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I'm not going to be able to do it. It would take like 5 minutes offline for me to fix it, to switch to another browser, because I have to log out of this one and log you out. I am determined to sort out my computer issues, but at least we're not having a streaming problem.
No, you're not freezing. There's a little bit of echoing, but I can deal with that.
Yeah. So anyway, just to put a topper on this, I'm going to talk about other things, but it is the 20th anniversary of Jerry Lewis faking his collapse, or collapsing, depending on how you look at it. September 8th, and I'm doing my an abridged version of a show called I Eat People Like You for Breakfast at the Comedy Chateau on the 8th. And I'll be posting about it. I'll be posting about it. Right?
Well, gee, I could imagine the first line would be, "It was 20 years ago today."
Right. Well, the Beatles played the London Palladium, so.
That's right.
Yeah. It's. I'll just say this, do you remember Ian Wilson in London?
Met a lot of Ians. I don't think.
Yeah. So Ian Wilson produced a comedy series, a stand-up comedy series in England that broadcast, I think, only in England. I'm not sure, maybe in America, but it was an international comedian, so maybe it did broadcast somewhere in America. And I never got on the show, was never invited, never tried to get on. I just I was at that point when I became aware of the show that, I only want to have agents try to get me on stuff, and I'm busy with other things anyway, and it's always awkward. So he shows up at the Palladium. Ian Wilson shows up at the Palladium, mm-hmm. And you got to imagine this. I arrived, well, I was there early, but when the doors open, 2,000 people walked through the doors, and I was standing there, and people were like, it was like a movie shot. People walking around me, they don't know who I am, they're bumping into me, sorry sir, whatever, and I'm like so thrilled. It was so great because I really wanted to produce a successful thing, but I also wanted to really, I felt a burden for Jerry's sake, to honor him, because he felt forgotten. And I felt forgotten in America. And so I related to it. But I'm not equating my level of success or fame anywhere near someone like him. No one's ever achieved what Jerry Lewis did, which has become a film star and a television star at the same time. Not even Jim Carrey. He went from one to the other. Maybe that's just the nature of the medium or the studios where they were ran back then. But Jerry was a film star and a television star and nightclub star all at the same time. So anyway, I was proud. I wasn't worried. I really felt proud. But there's Ian Wilson. And Ian Wilson stands up in the middle of, he's sitting in one of the, in the orchestra seats. this is before the show runs, and calls me over, says hello, and this is what he said. This is what he said. Stephen, this is just a disaster. This is absolutely a disaster.
And why did
Before the show started.
And did he elaborate on why he was saying that?
I don't remember. I probably tuned him out. I don't, knowing myself back then, I probably didn't want to. If I know that in England with certain people, if you say, why is that? You're actually inviting confrontation. So I just, all right, yeah, thank you. Well, enjoy the show. I was just more like that. But it bothered me that Ian Wilson, because I respected him, I knew what he had done, had said that. But why did he say that before the show started? And I think, that's the question.
Did he have a premonition?
Well, that worries me. But maybe because it was only 2,000 seats sold, and the London Palladium
3,500, I think.
No, Palladium's only about 2,800.
Oh,
but 800 empty seats. You
can notice it.
You can notice it, and you think Jerry Lewis is going to sell out, and of course he didn't know the backstory. That Jerry reneged on his sacred promise to do the publicity, and went out of his way to point that out to me, that I'll do all the publicity. Nobody knows what it's like to produce a show like this like I do. I'll be there 100% time for you, Stephen. Anyway, I want to talk about one other thing about this.
Reminding me of a couple things.
Sorry? Yeah, no, tell me.
My two most vivid memories of more than my actual performance was the wonderful chat I had with Barry Cryer.
Oh, wow. Barry was there that night?
Yes, he was. And we talked for a good 20 minutes.
Why didn't I put him on stage if I had known?
Yeah, I was talking to him in the foyer of the Palladium.
I'll tell you something.
Probably there because he's friends with Ronnie,
Tony DeMore, Ronnie Golden.
Yeah.
Tony suggested Barry Cryer way before Jerry Lewis ever entered into the picture. And I knew that the Brits knew Barry Cryer, but I was trying to sell the show to America television, Comedy Central as well, and I should have stuck. Anyway, I loved Barry. What a loss. I got to play a pub quiz with him, or whatever game we played up in Edinburgh once. What a brilliant man. What a brilliant loss.
The next time I saw him was the next year when you were at Edinburgh, and I wound up talking to him almost as long, with him and his wife, and it's funny, he never saw whatever I did, or maybe he did see me that night at the Palladium. I don't know, but there was that, and there was also, before the show, there were these people hanging out at the backstage entrance with a program, and they just wanted to get the autographs of all the performers, or as many of them as they could. And
wow, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, that was really cool, because they were just. I remember I was wearing a suit that night, and the guy just guessed, "You're in the show, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah." So, but he'd already gotten. I think he'd gotten Jim Gaffigan's autograph already at that point. So, amazing who was on that show. And I still love some of the lines I heard that night.
Great lines. And let me just say this last thing about it.
Okay.
And then let's fill the rest of the show with other conversation, if you don't mind. I'm getting a little saturated with the Jerry Lewis thing, but even though I'm doing most of the saturating. And I want to say this to you, and also to all my comedy fans and fanemy. How about that? Create a new word.
Yeah.
A fanemy. So here's the deal. If something horrible, God forbid, happens to somebody, even at their own doing, it stays with you, especially if it affects the rest of your life. And then when there's a one-man show and media interest and the talk of a movie all about this, that gets in the way of your your healthy-minded friends telling you to quit living in the past, Stephen. I know that this is going to be in my epitaph, on my headstone. I'm not going to do anything, no matter what happens.
Yeah.
Nothing is ever going to be as big as this. So I have to live with that. And it's not been easy. It's part of why I went a little cuckoo. It's also something that I've tried to forget multiple times, and people keep reminding me of it. And it's just like, here's the analogy: if there was a woman, God forbid, she was given a double mastectomy, and then turns out the doctor was fraudulent or mistaken, now she's going to be devastated for the rest of her life. Reconstruction surgery, the scars, the emotional scars, the rest of her life. Now, if someone came along and said, "I want to make a movie about this," or write a book and give you $1 million, then
that eases pain a little.
It eases the pain, but what it does is, especially when you're writing a screenplay with yourself as a central character, the whole thing becomes literally larger than life, and you think, I'm not going to forget it. It could be a big paycheck. What comedian out there wouldn't love to have a screenplay of theirs produced? Here's a wire transfer, $350,000 into your account just as a first payment for the screen rights of your screenplay. Who wouldn't want that? So I have this story that a lot of people are interested in. It's an interesting story, and I experienced it. So for those who think that the difference is that where I go into the rabbit hole is when I'm broke, and I think, if I just had that $25,000 that I wasted on an orchestra that Jerry Lewis wanted, and the big thing is this, and this is what I will close my speech on, and I'd love to hear what you have to say, is that it wasn't just all the money I lost and all the work I did, what Tamsin did for 8 months to produce this one show. It wasn't just that. It was two other things.
A.
Well, I'm trying to decide which is A and which is B, but I guess I'll just say A is the revenue of all the shows that would have happened. I was the producer, not the charity. We took money off the top and gave it to the charity, and then when we sold the show to Bravo UK, or I should say 26 minutes of about 8 comedians, I think, they paid us $1,800, or it was something along those lines. I always forget, between pounds and per minute.
1,200
per minute
at that time.
Yeah. And I split the money evenly between the charity and the comedian. I didn't take a dime. It wasn't a lot of money we raised for the charity, but they knew we were bringing media attention to them as well. And, I was looking to launch this, to finally get it up in space. So it's so many things here. All the money we really could have raised for that important charity is gone. And I stupidly blew it by trusting this Mr. King of comedy and Mr. Charity. All that money's gone that they could have made over the years. Over years, every year, I could have put $100,000 into Turning Point Scotland. I could have done that. I would have been happy to do that. And then the other part is, I would say, literally hundreds of American comedians and British comedians who weren't getting their due on stage at the London Palladium on an international television show once a year. People keep thinking that I'm about ego or something, and sometimes I am. I fall weak to my own devils. But
considering the first 2 years, when you did the first one at the Queen's Theater, the second one at the Edinburgh Playhouse, those went pretty well. So it was the next step was to move it to the Palladium, and really do it up big, and it's a shame that so many factors were working against you on that one. And Peter Graham said many times that there were there were numerous times where he was saying to you, you could cancel or postpone. And I know that by that time, you really just wanted to go ahead with the date, because to probably rebook at the Palladium would have been a real pain in the ass, you know.
That would have been very expensive because of all the ads we took out in Time Out. I
Yes.
bought full page color ads 4 weeks running, or were they half page? But at least half page, 4 weeks running in Time Out magazine and other stuff, the Evening Standard. The thing is, I already here's the problem is that it's Charles Fleischer's fault.
Oh, and that's a name from the past that just how did that fit in?
Because the year before, High on Laughter 2 at the 3,300 seat Edinburgh Playhouse at the Edinburgh Fringe in 2001, my initial show was Charles Fleischer, Mark Thomas, and Emo Phillips. And I was going to bill it as the voice of Roger Rabbit, the voice of the people, and the voice in his head. That was the show. And I put the ad together. I let Leslie design the ad. And I think I then had John Thingy, the Glaswegian publicist, and doing the show that year. I love that guy. We'd be working, and right in the middle, he'd go, "Hey, Steven, you want to get some food?" So, yeah, food. Yeah, I want to get some food. So, anyway, so I had all the ads done and told the publicist who's on the show, and then she sends out press releases. Lovely publicist lady that year, an Irish lady. And then Fleischer calls me and ask me the weirdest question. He says, what did I pay for his ticket? His first class ticket on Virgin.
Oh, he wanted first.
And we had, huh?
Did you promise him a first class ticket?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay.
But Virgin had something called upper class, and we had been dealing with Virgin. In fact, I think we were working on them being a sponsor, so we wanted to keep dealing with them. They didn't have first class on those planes; they had upper class, which is a little different. And I've flown both a lot, and I think it's just fine. It is for some technical reason. So anyway, I didn't know why he asked me this question. I thought it was kind of a rude question, but I wanted to get him an answer. And I see the Stephen Allen Green now would say, "Why do you want to know?" Maybe I did. Mm-hmm. And he just said, "I just want to know." So I called up Rhonda, the travel agent, and she said $5,000 for each first class ticket. And I said, "Really? That's all?" And he goes, "Yeah, it's called upper class. It's different. They have a deal going." Great, thank you. So I call him back and tell him $5,000, and he says, "Then I can't go," and he hung up on me.
And did you ever talk to him again to find out why?
I ran into him a year or two or three later at the Edinburgh Fringe when Linda Trayers, who's kind of a producer, brought him to Edinburgh, and I saw his show, and he was having a horrible show, and he looked like a broken man, and I'm really sorry to hear that. I think he's a fine actor and a brilliant comedian. I'm still obviously pissed off at this because I had to do all this extra work for no reason, and then pay the designer. I had to hold the presses. I had to do all that, redesign things, put ads in again. I had to find someone else. It created so much work for me, unnecessary, and expense and money that I could have had now or when I was homeless. So fuck you, that guy. I hate these people who stole money from me and from my mother. And when you're broke, like I am, and I'm working, I'm teaching comedy, I'm writing jokes, I'm driving Uber for dribs and drabs. But anyway, the point is that the reason I'd never found out directly why he pulled out of the show, but it was explained to me by, I forget who. But so do you know why comedians back in the 80s, because that's where he was from, why comedians back in the 80s would want to know what the promoter was paying for the airplane ticket? Because I know.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Because apparently, I say apparently, I have no evidence. What they would do is they would consider that a commodity. So if they were being paid $3,000 to do the show, and let's say their normal fee is $7,000, so they already feel like they're being, cheated a little bit by the promoter. And so they go, well, I'll normally get 7. Well, we can offer you 3 and the first class ticket. So someone advised them a long time ago, find out how much they paid for the ticket and then cash it in and then take economy.
Something, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And if he'd just been straightforward with me about what he was doing or why he was doing this, it would have made a big difference in my life. So that is the precursor year. So when you asked me earlier what brought us into this segment of the conversation, when why my tolerance or short fuse or whatever it was the year later was different, because I had already had this in my gut.
Yeah, and with a bigger name than Charles Fleischer, obviously.
Much bigger.
Yeah. So I do remember I got the Viz magazine. They used to do a monthly feature. Well, in their monthly issues, they'd always have a feature of a comic, and they did me one the month before.
Really?
The month of the Jerry Lewis show, the Palladium show.
Oh wow!
So, they basically, had a picture, and then they said, and great comment. They said they listed all my bookings for that particular month, and there was quite
nice.
a few. And one of them was the Palladium, and they also had a little blurb about the Palladium show. I guess it was just a comedy page that they had, but they had our feature actor of the month is Rick Wright. So what they said was, and be sure and see him before he finds out how fucked up it is, how shit it is here, and he fucks off back to America. And then they list all my bookings, and then the day after my last gig, they say, too late, he's fucked off back to America. So, but it was very nice of them to do that. They, in fact, one of those two main guys that did that column was at me and Steff's wedding that you were also at. Young guy named Alex Collier.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I remember.
Yeah, very tall, thin guy, and I'm not exactly sure why.
Is there ever a tall, fat guy? By the way, tall, fat guy.
Yeah, well, I know
fat guys tend to be short. Look at me.
I knew a tall, fat guy in junior high. I mean, who was over.
I knew a tall, fat guy in junior high. Do.
A fat guy in junior high, big thighs. So yeah. Anyway, yeah. So the good old days. God. Yeah. Are you going to have some video of the 20th anniversary tribute, whatever it is?
You mean of the show I produce? I perform?
Well,
yeah, the club tapes all everything. So I'm going to ask them for that. Yeah, absolutely. I love this club. I love the Chateau.
Yeah, it'd be great if you play some on the show for the next week. Although our guest is Louis Ramey, who is just an American comic who worked over here. The reason I got him, by the way, is that we became friends because John Keyes was when he was booking American comics over here. He booked Louis for a bunch of England gigs and also for this gig in India that paid really well. But he needed a place to stay, and I had this place in Dagenham with a spare room. So
Dagenham, you ought to take a rope and Dagenham.
Yep. And so yeah, Louis was one of my many lodgers. I had Lee Camp for a little while, and I had Chris DiStefano. Is that how you pronounce his name? Or
I have no idea.
He's a New York guy.
Hey, I'm a New York guy. Hey, I'm a New York guy. Ah.
But yeah, I think Chris DiStefano actually has a Wikipedia entry and all this.
I do.
Yeah, I have an IMDb entry that.
All you need to do to get a Wikipedia is have someone else do it for you.
Yeah, well, that's how I got the IMDb. Was that somebody just took my list of credits and posted it there, and they did get my birthday wrong by one day, but.
Let's see what your IMDb star meter is. Let's see. I'm already a member, so I'm going to log in. Oh, if I cleared my browser, okay, log in with IMDb. Hang on.
I guess it has. Yeah, it's under my real name, of course.
Your real name?
Yeah. No.
I'm getting a password incorrect. Let me go to my phone app. And I'll look you up on my phone app. Hey, this is fun. Who the fuck needs guests, you know? And by the way, it was going to be, once again, our regular, I think Anna Little should play the character of the guest who never shows, who we always like. And on our show, it's Anna Little. So every show, let's say, and
coming
a
up
segment from Anna Little, and she doesn't show every show. Does that work for you?
Well,
why are comedians so sensitive about themselves?
I know, only because I ran into her last Saturday, so I might run into her again. So as long as it's not too demeaning or whatever.
Well,
yeah,
you can't see it, but there you are. Brian Seff, actor, writer, known for Mork and Mindy, the Pee Wee Herman Show, Madam's Place, Pee Wee Herman. Let's see. Performer profile, 5'11". Are you 5'11"?
No, I'm about 5'9.5", actually.
Well, you better fix that.
Yeah.
Your star meter. Hey, listen, I think you got a higher star meter than I do. Your star meter today is 426,571.
Really?
Whereas mine is, let's see what mine is today. Mine jumps up and down every day. So, not that I don't know how this thing works. Anyway, mine is, I'm below you. 634,064.
Oh, I thought you said mine was 400 and something.
Yeah, you're higher than me.
Oh, yours is 400. So
mine is in the 600s. Yours is in the 400s. So the number one person, I mean,
yeah, rank. So like Tom
it's
Hanks,
ranked, descending rank.
I gotcha. Yeah.
So I forget how to search this thing to find out who's number one. But let's say, okay, let me look up. I'll look up one random star. Should it be Tom Cruise, or who do you think is the biggest star in Hollywood right now, or the hottest star? That's really what it is. So I'm going to look up Tom Cruise. What you think that?
Yeah, I was thinking Tom Hanks, but Tom Cruise.
Right, it's a Tom nonetheless. So let's go to Tom Cruise, actor, Top Gun, and his popularity is number 19. That means there are 18 people ahead of him in Hollywood that are more important than he is, or hotter than he is. So let's look up Tom Hanks.
Yeah, because Tom Hanks' most recent movie came out after Top Gun Maverick. So,
well, that's how volatile popularity in Hollywood is, I suppose.
Yeah.
All right. So Tom Hanks, his star meter is 82.
Whoa.
82.
Interesting. So, gosh, I have no idea who would be.
Well, I bet you it's like the kind of thing like, Jason Momoa. I think he's a former wrestler who's like doing all these superhero movies or something. Okay. I don't know enough about it.
Would there be someone like
he's an Aquaman,
a power player? Someone like.
No, it's based on stars. That's a good question.
Okay. So yeah, Judd would not be there, but
his star meter is 186. I don't know who's number one. I don't care. Yeah. But apparently I do care. But anyway, so you're higher than I am, which is funny because I'm usually higher than everybody.
Bud, I tell you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like this. There's this guy whose videos I watch. He's a comedian, American comedian named Tommy Campbell, who's young and does a lot of political stuff, but he does a great impression of Donald Trump Jr. Just
when you're talking like really fast, and so guys,
that's great. That's
but
great. Yeah, I hate Donald Trump too. Who doesn't hate Donald Trump? Wish the Trumps would go away. Anyway, uh, yeah. So I'm just
all right. Well, we've got about 3 minutes left here before we.
anything you want to plug.
Um, well, yeah, I've got a gig October 7th at.
Congratulations. Where are you working?
It's a club in Camden. I'd have to look it up, but I got that through Martin Besserman, who will be our guest on the 21st of September.
I'm looking forward to that. Camden, by the way, Americans, is in London. It's a very hip part of town, but it's become a little bit commercialized because of its hipness. But great comedy scene there. The Camden Jongleurs. When it was there, I played there. That was a big 500-seater club.
Always amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, you could. It was easy to die on your ass there, but
Yeah.
But when all systems were proper, it was great.
And the management knew this. So when Julia Chamberlain took over, she got me fired from Jongleurs because it was John Keyes, your agent, telling her not to book me. And she was good friends with John. And anyway, so the excuse was that I didn't have a work permit, but I did. It was in process, but that's not even the point. John was against me for some reason from the beginning. But in any case, so yeah, I had a great time getting in there. The owner, Maria Kapinska, is a lovely lady, saw me perform at a benefit that was produced there that I was part of for cystic fibrosis, I think, 50-pound a head. And I killed, and I met her, and she hooked me up with Norma Gaunt, the booker, who gave me 4 test gigs. I killed, then 1 paid gig in Leicester, and I killed, and then the phone call. So, all of this, I have to say, all of that stuff that I experienced specifically with John Keyes and Jongleurs and a little bit at the Comedy Store London, all that weird shit, just it fed into my learning computer about you as a comic. We're just floating out there. We have no control. We have no security, and all of that just made me. I had all this money, I had all this ambition, and all this vision, if you will, become a producer. And then once I pierced through that to the other side, I just thought, okay, all my anger and frustration is gone. And I want to help. I'm going to do nothing but I want to be the nice version of those bastards. Not those I spoke with necessarily, but I mean, quote unquote, those bastards, which both in America and in LA. America and in LA, London and LA. And New York, I could think of some there. But I wanted to be the nice guy. I was so blessed to have a mother who hit it big at the right time for me and force-fed all of her children lots of money, and boom, Yeah,
well, it was a very, very interesting life that you were leading for about 10, 12 years.
It was, and a little bit longer, about 20, on and off, mainly about 20. But yeah, no, it was very interesting. And, I wasn't prepared. I had to learn along the way. But I'll tell you this, and I'll let you go. I'll tell you this. I appreciate all my friends and all my fan friends, or even my fanemy. That's my new word. It's like frenemy, but for a fan. My fanemies. I appreciate even them, because they're paying attention. And upwards and onwards. Who's on the show next week?
Next week it's Phil Walker.
I love the Walker brothers. They got a little bit weird, but
but Scott Walker is a legend over. And actually, there were, Phil Walker has a brother, Mark Walker, who's also a comic, who I stayed in his spare room for about 3 months in 2002, and they're both the sons of Roy Walker, who was a game show host.
Oh wow! And I used to write for Jimmy Walker, who was on Good Times.
And I don't think they're related.
Maybe not, you racist bastard. Anyway, Rick, love you. Always, I'm glad we did this, even though our guest, and I hope Anna Little will reschedule you. Just, get your technology in order, Anna Little. I know it must be.
Get a little.
Get a little technology. Is she living? Is her flat is a basement flat? Is that part of the issue, or laptop problems, or what's going on?
That was part of the problem, and then so she was getting her laptop kind of upgraded so that it could work in the basement, but they just, from what I gathered, the repair people didn't get it done in time. So
I see. Well, Rick, all I want to say is.
Okay.
Can we do a pub quiz this week before we go?
I'll ask you my favorite question from last week. Okay. Let me make sure. Okay. We'll go with this one. The category was higher education with a question mark. The University of Texas in Austin is offering a course to liberal arts honors students entitled Literary Contests and Contexts, which will focus on the writings of William Shakespeare, Robert Frost, Keats, and what contemporary female singer-songwriter?
All right, let me hear the question again, please.
Yeah. Okay. Once again, the University of Texas in Austin is offering a course to liberal arts honors students entitled Literary Contests and Contexts, which will focus on the writings of Shakespeare, Robert Frost, Keats, and what contemporary female singer-songwriter? It's basically which one does not belong.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Is pretty much the top of the line as far as money makers and being really prolific American.
Well, I mean, it's not Lucinda Williams.
No, much bigger than that.
Even bigger than that. I just saw something on Lisa Loeb on Facebook, and now I'm going to see her again because I said it. God, I know this, but I don't know it. All right, I give up. Who?
Taylor Swift.
Okay, I don't know her work enough to put it down. All right, give me another question. I got to get one right.
I'll go with the other one. Well, this you might have a funny answer to this one, but most of the people figured it out. A place called Club 77 in Sydney, Australia, which has outlawed what to cut down on harassment. And if the club owners deem that someone is doing this too much, they will remove the person from the club. And it does not involve any bodily contact at all.
It's not a comedy club. You're talking about like a dance club?
Yeah, a disco.
Okay, let me hear the question again. I'm sorry, this is just my process today, I guess. Let me hear it again.
In Sydney, Australia, a club called Club 77 has outlawed what to cut down on harassment, resulting in whoever the club owners deem guilty of this offense, they would be removed from the club immediately.
Touching someone else that you don't know?
It involves no bodily contact, but it is some other form of
cursing?
No, it does involve no, it actually doesn't involve speaking either.
Farting?
No, but it's a funny one. The answer is staring. Like ogling, I guess it's what but
that's hilarious. All right, give me one more, and then we'll let it go. I guess I didn't. Right. You're making these questions extra hard because I'm stupid.
No, there were tough ones for the people to figure out. Okay, children's television. Frank Oz provided the original voice. He was a co-creator of the Muppets, but what Muppet did he provide the voice for?
Kermit.
No, that was Jim Henson. But you're
Oh, Frank Oz, the garbage guy, the garbage monster.
oh, it's kind of a trick question, but a main character in the Muppets.
Trick question.
Yes, in that it was Frank Oz, but provided the voice of what other lead character besides Kermit?
Was it Screech?
Nope. One of the top two characters.
One of the old men in the balcony?
No, it was Miss Piggy.
Oh.
Frank Oz. That's why I said it's a trick question.
Well, why would it be a trick question? I still don't see it as a trick
Because
question.
it was a guy providing the voice for a female character.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Let's have one more question.
All right.
Let's call this podcast One More Question.
Well, you'll know this. I bet you'll know this. The London culture. In what decade did the Notting Hill Carnival start? Because that was right by your house for. Oh,
It would literally, sorry. Yeah, it would literally go by my house, like
I
right by my door, right down the sidewalk or the pavement.
yeah,
It's
I
amazing.
remember I was trying to take a nap there, and then this float came by with really loud reggae music, and
Yeah.
I just said, okay, I guess a nap's out of question here. But
Anyway, I can only guess it was probably in the 50s.
no, later than that. But yeah,
What year?
it was 1966 was the first
Okay.
one. They only had 1,000 attendees at that one, and then this past weekend they had close to 2 million.
2 million?
Yeah, over the bank holiday weekend, they had close to 2 million people.
Wow. You know, I missed that carnival. I'll tell you, you smell the waft of really good homemade jerk chicken, Jamaican chicken,
God, yes, I do remember that.
and hashish and pot, and then
Oh.
people dancing and topless women and great music, and
Mm.
it's just a celebration. It's so wonderful. I want to get back there for it. Anyway, I didn't get any questions this week, but that's okay.
Yeah, these were kind of esoteric, but okay, really quick one, because I asked this one. Veisalgia, it's spelled Veisalgia, is the medical term for what usually self-inflicted condition?
Spell it again.
Veisalgia, Veisalgia. It's self-inflicted, meaning we do we do something to our bodies, and
Is it VE or VA?
VE, it's pronounced Veisalgia.
And men and women can go through this, right?
I'm sure most of us have at some point in our lives experienced it.
Self-inflicted.
Yeah, it's, not physical harm. I mean, like, stabbing yourself or anything like that. It's more like you have this condition. Big clue. You experience this the morning after.
Oh, I knew it was sex related. Nostalgia for the vagina. Visalgia.
That's good. That's actually the word. It's a hangover. But Veisalgia
That's
is
a hangover.
Veisalgia is the medical term for a hangover. Yes.
Oh, listen, one of the things. Speaking of hangover, I was going to share this, but again, I can't share it today. But go to my Facebook. I posted. There's an article from Daily Variety about the Comedy Store says it lost $8.5 million in COVID funds because an accountant missed the deadline.
I did see that. Yeah.
So the accountant went over the light, basically.
Yes, that I saw that comment too. So,
well, they should sue. I mean, I was wondering how they were staying afloat, and that's a lot of money. But I guess that's what they deserve, of course. And That's
So I
weird.
wonder if it's the Shore offspring that that are responsible.
No, they always had trouble with accountants. Remember that guy when we were there in the 80s who was like, a Middle Eastern guy, big guy that ran all the numbers, and then Mitzi found him cheating or accused him of cheating.
You're talking about Kirk? No.
No, not him. No, he was like his name was Haddad or something.
Oh,
and
yes. Uh, yeah, I want to say Haji, but I don't
no, it's Middle Eastern, not.
Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, I'm thinking of the guy that was the drug supplier for Sam and all those guys. His name started with an H as well, but he wasn't employed by the store. He was just,
I remember him.
yeah. He did speak at Sam's wake. Anyway,
What did he say? Well, there goes another customer.
well, what was funny was when he was on stage speaking, there was just this murmur through the crowd, just going, "Oh, we know."
We know who this guy is. I know who you're talking about. And he was also his front was that he was a waiter in the belly room. That guy.
Yeah, I think that's the same guy. Yes, but yes, I remember going to a party at I think it was his house, or no, it was Alan Stevens' place before he bought his place in the valley, and yeah, there was just an assortment of contraband and loonies there. So just usual Hollywood party.
Yeah. Well, that's what that's what I believe the whole Sam Kinison movement was about. I think Sam cared more about the parties than his success, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it was. That's why I got in trouble. I was on his shit list for a while, because he was chopping up the lines at Crest Hill and just going, these are the best of times. We're all best of friends. And I said, I'm looking at some of these ass kissers that are around. I just said, yeah, how many of these people are going to be here when the drugs are gone?
That cut everyone's throat except yours. Well, eventually yours.
But yeah, that story made the rounds to where the Sam's reaction was to just have all these lines on the glass and just go, which did not happen, but it's a nice end to the story. But yeah, he hated me for a while, and then about 6 months after all that came down, he was like, you know what, Rick, you're absolutely right. These people were just hanging around for my drugs, and they were taking my act too. So,
hey, Rick, I really enjoyed this hour, and I kind of knew I would, and I was right. I don't want to change the format of what we do, but maybe is there a way? What their plan is that you and I do like 3 to 5 minutes up front while our guest is in the green room, and then it's all about three-way conversation, and I think we work pretty well. But I just like doing a show with you. How can we do that? Can we stop guests, or maybe every once in a while not have a guest, or do a half hour of just you and me, and then?
Well, we could have the guest for the first hour to hour and 15, and then have 15 minutes.
That's too much.
Like overtime. Bill Maher, yeah.
Look, as Anna Little proved today, guests are complicated. They really are. I mean, it's whether it's the guest who I give the code, the login code, I explain everything. And then right before we're about to go live, the guest is texting and messaging me and calling me, hey, what do I do? I'm ready to go. I mean, and it's like that drives, we don't need guests anymore.
Yeah. I imagine the next 2 weeks guests will be fine.
They're probably listening to this shit going, I know I'm being his fucking show now.
Probably, there might be some questions.
This might be what we were looking for with our Patreon, that extra thing we're setting up.
Yep, that might be.
This might be our bonus material, is just you and me. Should we look at it that way?
Yeah, and then we can concentrate when we have the guest on, letting them be the focal point.
But then there's a fine line of us now Are we going to be if we have a guest, let's say that we're going to be talking about them like privately, but it's never privately. I don't mean I don't want to give that vibe. People don't trust us. They think we're just going to talk about them. That's not what we're do.
I would think if we carry on after the guest is gone, we don't necessarily talk about the guest. We might talk about something the guest brought up, but to not talk about them personally.
Right. But we have to. Okay, but just two things here I want to say is that we don't have to do the bonus material right afterwards because it's 8 hours later for you. You're going to bed. Better do another day. We just have to create one a month for Patreon. But also, how it's got to be. I don't want it to be salacious, but I don't want it to be too heady either. But I want it to be something that would easily sell to people, so they join the Patreon. They go, oh, if you get that bonus material, then you get this content. So how do we define that content?
It's it is. I'm kind of lost at the moment of how you define it so that it's appealing to the average, presumably the average comedy fan.
Yeah, it's comedy fans, and I want comedians to watch it too.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's got to be some kind of inside information that's not going to get us in trouble in any way, and not going to hurt anybody, and has to be very carefully excluded from. It has to be exclusive. So when something's exclusive in one box, it has to be excluded from another box. So unless we kind of touch upon it in that other more public box and then say, wait, go to our bonus material on Patreon. Maybe that's it. The thing is, we're doing this show live, so it's. I'm pretty sure that StreamYard's been recording these. I know that when I did this on Zoom record it, and it would go on my hard drive. And I'm pretty sure StreamYard's doing the same thing. I don't know why I haven't checked, but
they probably would have to check just to make sure about copyright infringement and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's true. But so what I'm suggesting is, and this is the last thing I'll say, and we both got to go. What I'm suggesting is that part of the bonus material structure would be clips from the show
or previous shows even.
No, but the problem is that how can we give people something exclusive if it's already been streamed?
Okay, yeah. Just thinking out loud.
Well, let's put our minds to this and let's keep going, because I think there is a little income in this if we can make it work, and I think it's a fun little business. I thank you very much. Next week we have
Phil Walker.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. And a little sorry you couldn't make it. We'll get you rebooked. Have a great week, ladies and gentlemen. Try to stay cool.
You too, sir. See you later.
Okay, Brian. It's Comedy Dish.
Co-starring Rick Wright and Stephen Allen Green.